Good morning and welcome to a very special edition of the Mastermind Library. I'm John Perry, the Reach Architect, and to my right is
Derek Egeberg, the Approval Coach.
So one of our favorite authors that we've talked about is Andy Andrews. In one of his books, he talks about a preface that shows up after chapter 5. And the interesting thing is a preface is normally at the beginning of the book. It's kind of like the author's notes that they want you to read or the summary of what it is before you get into what it is, kind of minimizing the whole effect of getting engrossed in the story, if you will, or in the subject matter. So we are going to now do a preface on why we're doing the Mastermind Library after you've already listened to maybe 2, 3, 4 of our episodes. So Derek, why are we doing this? Why are we putting ourselves through the time and energy to read all these books and to film this and to put it out there?
I think a couple of reasons. Number one, personal growth. You and I committed a long time ago. How do we grow as much as possible? And part of this is just holding each other accountable. So if you agree to do it and I agree to do it, then if I don't do it, I'm letting you down. And if you don't do it, you're letting me down. So it's personal accountability, it's growth, and it's also a lot of fun because some of these books have some great information that, you know, one of the books we've talked about, you had on your shelf for 6 years and you never picked it up because you didn't see the value in it. So part of it is finding the values in the authors that, as Andy Andrews says, some of these authors pour out their hearts for $20, $25 a book. And sometimes we just don't take that value at the value that it is. We look at the face value and say, hey, I got a free book, or it's only $20. So for me, it's personal growth. It's accountability to somebody that I really enjoy as a friend. It's building a dynamic community of people who want to be part of this discussion and really see the excitement of the growth of people who want to catapult themselves to different levels in life.
That's an excellent way of saying it, yes.
So, John, why are you committed to this Mastermind Library? And this is your preface.
I really think that the biggest thing that has helped me through this process is perspectives from other people. We are all in different places in our lives at different times, literally every day. Something happens and it changes how we see the world. Whether it's a ripple or a tsunami, everything changes every single day for us. Where I was 10 years is not where I was 5 years, is not where I was today. So if I read a book 10 years ago, and I read a book 5 years ago, and I read a book today, I'm going to potentially get 3 different perspectives on it. That's a long time to generate those perspectives. Whereas, if I had met with somebody who's a 50-year-old minority business owner and a 22-year-old factory worker and a 36-year-old single mother and a 75-year-old retiree, and they read all the same book and they share their perspective at once with me, that is going to greatly enhance what I can get out of this amazing tomb of knowledge that I paid $15 to $25 for in a much more rapid fashion than me waiting 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 60 years to potentially get the same perspectives. I will never understand what it's like to be a woman in this country because I am not a woman. It is interesting to hear what women think of books that I really like and what I think of books that they really like. Mm-hmm. I need these perspectives to grow quickly because that's what I'm about at the moment. I want to grow. And so by having the Mastermind Library, I see it as the easiest way and the least expensive way to grow quickly, professionally, personally, developmentally, to grow. Zig Ziglar, I think, dubbed it Car University, yep. Where back in the day, they used to have audio cassettes you could plug in your car when you're commuting and traveling and just learn because you're a dedicated audience. Now, today, we have audio books, and it's very easy for me to get up in the morning, walk my dog 6, 8, 10 miles, and listen to a book or two, and pull out pieces of information that could potentially be life-changing for me and my family. I also really enjoy that I get to go on this journey with my friend and hear his perspectives of these books and somebody that I respect and trust, so that as I'm going through it by myself, it also holds me accountable for doing it, because if I'm not doing it, then I can't expect you to do it. And so it holds an accountability factor for growing and not just standing still.
So you said perspective, and I think that's one of the biggest things is having. We've read books on disc profiles and personality profiles, and you see, whether you're a D, an I, an S, or a C, and Andy Andrews had animals that he used, but it's the perspective, because I think my perspective is right, you think your perspective is right, and generally neither are 100% right. It's something right over there, but it's the perspective of maybe I can glean a little bit more information and not go through the pain of the full learning curve.
Exactly. I don't want to make the mistakes. I also don't want to wait too long to make a decision. And so this getting a little bit more input from a little bit larger audience pool helps enable me to create rapidly changing views to bring my focus on how I view the world.
Okay, perspective question for you.
Yes.
Do you do more for the pleasure and reward or more for the avoidance of pain?
I think by default, we try to avoid pain as much as possible. We're very scared of pain. They've done tests that show that somebody would rather give up $5 than to gain $95. It's one of those weird kind of things. People are risk averse.
Yes.
And so.
Well, the reason I ask is we've had some of these books around, and I point to Giftology because that's one that you mentioned you had for 6 years before you picked it up. And it's the pain of, I can't let John down. I hope you feel I can't let Derek down.
Absolutely.
And both of us say we can't let down the Mastermind Library community, because if we're not willing to say non-negotiable, additional books, more input and energy and education and more dialogue, then it stops there. And so part of it is, okay, we want to grow and we want to see how far this goes in terms of personal growth and knowledge and commitment to a community, but it's also, man, I can't let anybody down.
Yes.
And so that, again, for everybody's benefit, John, you showed up on a Tuesday, the week your mom, I wanted to be a little bit more gentle, but it was the morning after your mom passed away.
That is correct.
And for the audience, I think I know the answers, but why did you show up that morning for all of us?
Because I committed to this process. This was something that before we even sat in a chair, we've been working on for months. And if you really want to tie it back to things, we were kind of working on it for about 3 years leading to these points that, you had this idea for your own podcast, and somehow around 9 months ago, I floated this idea and you were all about it as well. And so we kind of, I piggybacked on your studio so that we could create this. And I gave my word that we would go through with it. And I wanted to do it right because you were about also doing it right, which means we had to put this stuff together. We had to show up. We had to be a part of it. Good, bad, high, low, thrills, pain, it's all part of the process. We're human. We grow.
Windows 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0, there's a learning curve and hopefully a betterment of everything going forward, including our own education and our own mindset and our own cognitive abilities, if you will.
Absolutely.
So, and I appreciate that commitment very much because I think it speaks volume to your character. And I think your mom would be proud of the commitment level to a community like the Mastermind Library that you said, you know what, I can spare a little bit of time.
Because it's time. It doesn't cost money. It does cost planning. It costs commitment and forethought. And my mom taught me to honor my commitments. I think she would approve of the fact that I made a commitment and I followed through with it. That's all there is to it.
So would this be the one time she said, finally, John, you follow through on a commitment?
No,
no. Just kidding. But again, from the Mastermind Library, what do you hope to get out of this journey? I'm curious.
I hope to improve to be as close to the best version of myself I can be. If I just stand still, the world's going to pass me by. If I am running on a bus, am I running 4 miles an hour or am I running 44 miles an hour as that bus is moving down the street? I would rather be moving ahead and helping be part of the change that I want to see in the world than to sit on the bench and watch the world pass me by.
So same question, different perspective. What do you hope the community gets out of this mastermind library?
I hope that they see that these two knuckleheads from Yuma, Arizona, if they can take the time to read a book a week or more, then maybe they will have the time to pick a book a month, improve themselves, contribute to the dialogue about these books, share a perspective that maybe myself or you or somebody else hasn't thought of yet, and can become a slightly better version of themselves along the process. It's a multiple lane street with cars going in every single direction. There is no wrong decision. There is potentially better choices that can be made. And if we're not growing, then are we stepping back? I would like to be part of the community at large that is working towards a future for myself, for my kids. I'd like to leave a legacy behind of something positive in the world than just making sure that my kids are okay.
So I'm going to use some of those same analogies, and I love those. So for me, going backwards, what I hope the community gets is what you just said. If this is an 8-lane each direction road, we're all kind of on the same road, but you don't have to drive the same car. Some people are driving a sports car, some people are driving a minivan, whatever you want to drive. And that's kind of the same. You're starting wherever you want to start with this knowledge base that you have. It's up to you which book you want to pick up. It's up to you which avenue you want to go down. Is it personal growth? Is it spiritual growth? Is it physical growth? Is it managerial? None of it's right or wrong. But what I hope happens is, unlike a lot of platforms, I want this to be an open dialogue with the people who are willing participants, that this becomes something that we bond and we build friendships, and it becomes this ever-growing group of people that are committed to one another's success. Because like you said, it comes down to a perspective. You may see a perspective that I'm not aware of because I'm engrossed in the trenches daily of my life. And I may see the same opportunity in your life in a different perspective. And that's what I hope the community points out is there's nuggets in books that it's taken 5, 6, 8, 10 times to read before you pull them out. Now, what I hope I get out of it is amazing exponential growth. I hope I leave my children's children an inheritance. And I'm not talking just money. I'm talking about knowledge and commitment and growth and seeing what a person is able to do. And I hope nobody in the community, I hope you and I, none of us have to go through something like what Andy Andrews did, where, you know, when you listen to his story, being homeless, under a pier, losing both of his parents within a very short amount of time, and seeing what he's able to grow from, that pain, I think, propelled him forwards. And I hope none of us have to go through the pain, because I can use a little bit of your pain to correct mine before it gets there. You can use a little bit of mine. They can use a little bit of ours. We can use a little bit of theirs. And all of us I get to realize that somebody such as John Rulin here, poured their heart and soul into a book. And I only had to exchange 25 hard-earned dollars to learn all of his or her or whomever the authors are, their wisdom that they took the time and effort to put out there. And so for me, I think it's just realizing that, man, we live in the greatest time in the greatest country on earth, that we have all of these assets at our fingertips. And sometimes we get so busy on your multi-lane highway that we don't stop to read the billboard that says there's a library right here with all of the knowledge and resources you'd ever need.
Absolutely. This is such a unique perspective when you consider how expensive four-year universities are today. There are some things I absolutely believe are necessary. I want my doctor to have gone through 4 years and 4 years in residency. I want them. There's a reason why they call it practicing medicine, not mastering medicine, because there's something to learn every day.
Yeah.
You know, my lawyers, there's a reason why they call it practicing law. You want them to go through all these things so that they are still learning 10, 20 years later, hopefully. You know, when it comes to relationship management, you kind of wonder where that $100,000, $200,000 college education is, because all these books kind of teach the same thing at a fraction of the cost. The big difference is you have to be self-motivated.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be humble enough to actually be willing to listen to what they have to say, and you have to do. You have to enact. You have to enable yourself to execute some of these points and incorporate them into your own life, which is one of the hardest things because change is not comfortable.
Is that from a personal position?
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe a little.
It never is. But I think one of the other things I hope everybody in the Mastermind Library gets is the expectation is progress, not perfection.
Yes.
And if there's one thing I've been worried about most of my adult life is, man, I got to be perfect. Oh my gosh, it wasn't done right, and I'm beating myself up, and things just aren't right. No, we're all progress. And I can say, John, I'm proud of you. You've lost how many pounds in the last couple of years?
30 pounds.
Okay, so you're down 30 pounds because did some doctor say you have to, or did you commit yourself?
Just a series of circumstances where convenience met opportunity.
So convenience and opportunity was you're walking your dog, listening to books.
My dog would not let me sleep, so I had to start walking my dog, who's high energy, and that extended to 6, 8, 10 miles a day. Instead of listening to music, I chose audiobooks, and those went hand in hand. And now, a couple years later, I finished almost 600 books in the last couple of years.
So the opportunity, again, back for me, why I really want to do this is we have the opportunity to review books.
Yes.
We have the opportunity to really see into an author's mind and kind of learn from them. Like, again, one of my favorite books, Tuesdays with Maury.
Yes.
Learn this journey of life for $20. And look, just the commitment to an author or from an author to put this on paper and put these things together and to think, I only have to exchange 20 little green pieces of paper with dead people on them for their wisdom and knowledge. And here's what I want out of the Mastermind Library is we get to go on this journey together. Mm-hmm. And it's not, not unlike what President John F. Kennedy said. It's, not what the library can do for you. This is a place we're all in. But what can you do for the Mastermind Library? How do we elevate the enthusiasm and the encouragement and the growth and the knowledge and just the nuggets out of all of these books? Because I promise everybody reading this, if you read Giftology, because we got the book here on the counter, I promise everybody's going to see one or two nuggets that they want to implement first or a different tactic to use out of that. And it's going to be different than me. It's going to be different than you. Uh-huh. But if we start these conversations, what could they do for you, John, and what could you do for them? And it really is back to the old, 1 + 1 isn't 2. 1 + 1 really could be 3. We're catapulting on everybody else's strengths.
Growth exponentially.
Mm-hmm. So those are my expectations for the Mastermind Library. John, do you have any other randoms?
I think you pretty much covered everything. This is just such a phenomenal opportunity. I do thank you for letting us crash your studio to make this happen and allowing me to inject this idea that has come to reality, because realistically, without your toys, it wouldn't be what we've set it up to be.
You're welcome. Let me say that you're welcome. And this is the fun project. And again, it's not unlike you had a book on your shelf for 6 months. I had a vision, but it wasn't until there was a commitment with a friend to say, okay, no, I got to get this done. And for everybody behind the camera, there's other pieces and parts to this that will eventually get up and running as well, where it'll be more than just a 2-person interview. We could have 4, 5, 6 people having a good conversation. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those journeys that if you're going to be on a growth journey, it's way easier to be in a group of people than it is to be that lone pioneer walking across the frontier, not knowing where you're going. So my pleasure to open up the studio, but this really is the Mastermind Library Studio.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm John Perry with the Reach Architect.
And Derek Egerberg, the Approval Coach.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.